Today we investigate the poorest town in the poorest region, once a titan of British industry, but it's now been rocked by a number of shocking headlines, such as terrified locals in Cornwall's poorest town say estate is a crime-ridden hellhole where people walk around covered in faeces, and Cornwall's poorest town forced to employ army of bouncers to patrol the streets to combat drunken yobs and homeless encampments. How much truth is there behind the headlines? Today we find out how this area went from being the richest region in the world to one of the most deprived towns not only in the UK, but in the whole of Northern Europe too. Welcome to Camborne, Cornish Mining World Heritage Site. Onwards we go. So I'm now officially in Camborne, the poorest town in the poorest region. Blimey, that building's in a bit of a state of disrepair. You can see all the windows have been put through. You can see the terrace rows of houses, very typical in Cornish towns and villages. Houses like that would have housed the miners and their families. Camborne and the surrounding area, once upon a time, was the most densely mined area on the planet. I'm now approaching the main town centre of Camborne, and there's many closed down shops ahead. In fact, I'm walking past one now. This was once the Fu Yan Chinese buffet. The remainders of someone's tent there. You see their tent poles, and there's a safe. I guess that was where a homeless person was keeping their belongings. You can see the signs of disrepair, graffiti on many of the buildings here in Camborne. In fact, there's a sharps box just there. There's clearly a huge problem with substance abuse in and around the town. Needles and sharps disposal. I think I'll go careful where I'm standing. See more closed down, dilapidated buildings as we're heading now into the main town centre of Camborne. You can see a handbag just left out. I wonder who that belongs to. There has been a wave of thefts and violent attacks in this specific square. Is that a victim of theft that we see there on the floor? Who knows? Lads, what's it like growing up in Camborne?
It's alright, it gets a bit boring to be fair. Anything can go on in Camborne. I just have a few bevs and chill.
I reckon it's just Camborne in general.
Is it rough,
yeah,
is it?
Yeah, there have been a lot. There was some axe murderer a few weeks ago, or like a few months ago or something. Yeah, I'm not joking, there actually was. Why would I ever think it doesn't get any better.
So what's your plans then? You
Be successful from shelter.
Get out a staple shop of every Cornish high street, Rose, Cornish bakery. Without your help and the support of sponsorships, these documentaries literally wouldn't be possible. This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. I've been using HelloFresh now for a few weeks and it's certainly made my life easier. It's transformed the meals that I'm cooking. As a dad, it's important to me that I get a good diet into my kids, but I'm not exactly gifted in the kitchen. But with the easy to follow recipe guides and the fact everything I need is here in this box, HelloFresh has certainly helped me up my game. They can't believe some of the dishes that are coming out this kitchen, and frankly, neither can I. It's Thanksgiving, maple roasted chicken and sausage stuffing tonight, and all the trimmings. HelloFresh have an amazing offer. With my code 60joefish, you'll get 60% off your first box, plus 20% off for the next 2 months, plus free desserts for life. That's crazy. Free desserts for life. After a busy week away filming, everything I need is here for me. And if I know I'm going away for a week, I can just skip, pause, or even cancel my subscription. There's no contracts locking you in. You're free to leave at any time. So head over to HelloFresh using the QR code on screen now, the link in the description, and use my code 60joefish to get 60% off your first box, plus 20% off for the next 2 months, plus free desserts for life. Massive thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video.
I've lived in Cornwall since 2022.
And so what brought you down to Cornwall?
I come out of jail in February. I come out of jail, right, for assault with someone.
For assaulting someone?
People pissed up thing. I did hear a few things about people owing this and owing that.
Yeah.
And that's all like, the way I see it, that's like street politics that I just keep. And someone, I do know this, right, about someone getting stabbed.
Oh, really?
Right, with a screwdriver,
Mate.
right, in the face. Right, and apparently there was like 2 stabbings in one weekend. Camborne's getting worse, and there's also a bit of like vigilante shit. I'm like, oh, you're on the streets. It's scary, right?
Yeah.
And like the thing is, I don't go around giving anyone any grief, right? But I know it could come my way really easy if I put myself in the wrong places.
There's been a wave of media attention focused on Camborne, and a lot of that is in regards to the violence that's been taking place. As the fella said, there's been a number of stabbings and other violent attacks in this small Cornish town, which is pretty crazy to think, really. There's also been a wave of county lines gangs that have been caught and closed down that were operating in and amongst Camborne, so maybe those out of town gangs have brought their violence with them. For hundreds of years, Camborne and the nearby towns were renowned for the tin, copper and china clay mines that surround the area. This abundance of resources led to Camborne being the richest town in the entire world for a period of time. However, with the closure of the mines during the 20th century as part of the deindustrialisation of the UK, fortunes changed. These closures led to many problems for the area. Unemployment and poverty were the end result. Sadly, since then, these towns have slipped further and further into decline, leaving Camborne amongst the most deprived towns in the country, but also amongst the top percentage of poorest towns in Northern Europe too. What was it like, say, 20, 30 years ago? As far as I'm aware, the last mine closed in 1998.
I'm not a Cornish girl. I've lived in Camborne for the last 40 years.
That's good enough for me.
So when I first came to Cornwall, it was lovely. Yeah, so people were still working at the mine. I knew people that worked there. My partner used to work at Holman's.
One of the biggest employers.
Yes,
They
yeah,
employed
yeah.
around 3,500 men in the town.
Yeah, and they used to change the traffic lights when they came out of work, you know, to
Yeah.
make it better with the traffic. Yeah, more homely, shall we say. There was more here, actually, you know.
It was bustling town back then,
Yes,
wasn't it?
Yeah, so, yeah, it's a shame all that's gone, but, you know, progress and all that.
So you've seen the aftermath of all of that.
That's right, yeah.
And what did the men do then once the mines closed?
A lot of them just got little jobs here and there. Some went up country and worked, you know, so you lost a lot of them. And some took early retirement, obviously, you know, so there was all those options, really.
I've seen a lot of negative headlines. So is there issues now within the town?
Yeah. It's going more diverse, shall we say. Lots of barber shops, which we don't need.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of those on my walk
6
through.
or 7 of them now.
There is on one small street, isn't it? It's pretty crazy, really.
Yeah.
How many heads is there to cut in Camborne? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
I know.
And so, has there been a bit of a spike in sort of crime and theft and things like that?
So, yeah, and bad behaviour, you know, disorderly behaviour thing, a few drugs, and then we had people camping in the churchyard, so it has gone sort of downhill really, and the shops are going.
There's a lot of closed down shops.
Cox now with them and Co, you know, so there's not a lot to come into town for.
Well, thank you ever so much for giving me your time today. I really appreciate it. You have a lovely day. There's a saying amongst the Cornish. It goes like this. Cornish lads are fishermen. Cornish lads are miners too. But when the fish and tin is gone, what are Cornish lads to do? Jobs are few and far between in Camborne, and the jobs that are here often are seasonal and tied to the tourist trade that Cornwall enjoys. But many of these jobs are low paying and, as I said, seasonal. So when it comes to the winter time, many of the folk in Camborne are without employment. Add to this the difficulties with public transport between the towns of Cornwall. Public transport is extremely sparse in this region of the UK, and it certainly contributes to the lack of employment, as many of those that live in Camborne can't commute to the outside towns because the public transport just isn't reliable enough. Got an interesting flag in the closed down shop window there. Got Indianas. You can see many of these shops have been closed for many, many years. Completely rotted away on this one. You can literally see through. I hate to ask, but it helps tremendously when you like, comment and subscribe. When I film content like this, I want it to go out to as wide an audience as possible. And with your help, we can do that. It's another closed down shop there. Another barber's, another closed down shop. You can see estate agents, pizza shops, barbers and takeaways. Many of the houses on the back streets of Camborne are all boarded up as well. It's not just the shops, it's the houses as well. Another boarded up house. I think Camborne's a million miles away from what most people expect when they think of Cornwall. I think most people think of Cornwall and they think of the glorious blue seas, the rugged coastlines, but it seems there's certainly an underbelly of poverty and despair in many of these towns and villages in Cornwall. There's somebody's tent just put over the wall. I guess that's somebody's belongings that they are storing there to keep safe. We do see someone's tent and belongings. Oftentimes they'll go in the back of the wagon. Another betting shop next to the closed down market. I wonder how long this one's laid vacant for. You can see Betfred's running well though.
Yeah.
This is covered in graffiti now. The door you see behind me is Camborne Food Bank. The neighbouring town of Redruth over the last decade has seen a 2,000% increase in the use of its food bank. Just shows the realities of life for the people of Cornwall. A 2,000% increase in a decade alone. It's clearly been really badly affected. There's so many closed down shops, boarded up buildings, just left to rot. See the building site behind me. They're building a few affordable homes here. Camborne has some of the lowest social and affordable housing numbers to be found anywhere in Cornwall. And Cornwall as a county suffers significantly with low social and affordable housing numbers, with many families in Cornwall being left homeless and in temporary accommodation. In fact, over a third of children that grow up in Camborne are doing so below the poverty line. Many of these children growing up in extreme poverty. How will the next generation fare? You can see another tent left out on the floor. You must have seen at least 4 or 5 tents strewn out on the floor in Camborne. Camborne has the highest homeless numbers inside Cornwall, and Cornwall as a county struggles significantly with homelessness, with some of the highest homeless statistics to be found anywhere in the country.
So I like it here because you've still got the warmth, friendliness, and though Camborne has its problems, and that we get quite a few people who sleep rough in here. We don't move them on, they eventually move on, we don't move them on because where else are they going to go? It's the sort of place where you want to help. Loads. We had 7 tents in here at one time. They haven't come along, but the thing is, it's a little bit like this. It's Christmas. What happened at Christmas? A homeless couple who couldn't find somewhere to stay ended up sleeping in somebody's barn. They got moved on by everybody till they slept in a barn. So in a way, it's a bit difficult saying to people you can't sleep here.
Exactly, mate, yeah. Duvet's just been left on the floor there. A whole apartment block here that's been closed down and boarded up. You can see one of the street patrol bouncers approaching. These folk have been employed to try and disperse the street drinkers and whatever else.
Hello, is this for YouTube?
It is indeed, my darling. I'm assuming this building has been used for squatting purposes. You can see all the boarded up ground floor now, and many of the top floor windows have all been put through. You can see big chunks of glass all over the floor. Rubbish absolutely everywhere. The amount of rubbish there. We've got somebody's suitcase over there. An absolute state of disrepair. It seems once industry leaves a town, oftentimes that void is filled by a vacuum of crime, poverty and substance abuse. Is there hope for these old mining communities? Plans have recently been finalised for a nearby mine to reopen due to the current demand for tin and copper. This could spark a further investment in the sector and result in the reopening of more mines in the county, potentially offering thousands in the area a chance of employment. Furthermore, there has been excitement locally with massive lithium finds within the region. Could this bring a new hope and a regeneration of Cornwall's rich mining traditions? Well, that was Camborne, the poorest town in the poorest region. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe. It helps me tremendously. I'll see you on the next one.